Hello everybody, hope you're having a good day. So today I'm going to share my experience with gardening, my short experience of gardening, and just share with you what you have to pay attention when you're buying a new plant. So specifically for my case, I recently purchased a house for the first time in my life with my spouse, and we finally got our first garden. So it was like, yay, I got my backyard. What are we gonna do with it? As a newbie. And before we purchased a house, I did a lot of research specifically on the gardening part because we live in California, Sunshine City. Yay, lots of sun, lengthy, long days of hours of sunlight, very hot. Not that high humidity, not that much rain, so the black spot issue is not as much as to us comparatively, but we will get other problem because of the dryness and so on and so forth. So there are something we need to pay attention for. And before we even purchase a house, I think like over 1 year research on how to, what I should pay attention to do with the backyard, kind of before we even move in. And I even do some research on figure out how I can save money by, for example, see if there are like some green organization that actually sponsors you to get trees in your house. Because usually those organizations, you might not look that much in terms of a saving in terms of money, but usually they send an arborist out to your place to kind of like inspect to make sure the trees are in the correct location. They will give you tips in terms of like this side you should do this, that side should do this. If you leave this tree here that your builder give you, it will block your solar panel, for example, for my case. So those are really valuable tips that you get from them, and then you can kind of like donate money afterwards if you want it, because they are a green organization that helps people, not just like for making our environment greener, but also give you tips as a new house owner in the area to help you to figure out what you should plant, or give you recommendation like this is area too close to the house, you want something short, you don't want something that might in a storm and wham and you lose your house, for that kind of things. So those are good tips to me, so I highly recommend it if you're a new house owner or you're considering buying plants, and that kind of service is available for your organization. So that's one thing, one of my experience. And my previous experience of gardening is very short-lived. It's not in a backyard, it's in a patio, because I move countries a lot, so I usually live in apartment high-rises, and the only place I can garden is basically a backyard backyard garden. And my craziest one, I probably have to say, is growing potato in the backyard. Well, not exactly backyard, patio, growing potatoes there. That was fun. I grow roses, potatoes, vegetables, kales, anything you can think of in that little small space of the patio. So that was fun. So, but I don't have enough in terms of experience in the local area that I'm moving in, as well as like like what is suitable for that environment. So I did a lot of researches before I even plant my plants. Still not enough. I'm still learning the last few years since I moved in. And you can look at organizations that actually do native plants. You can look for it on Facebook, or you can ask people. There are native plants that is more well suitable for your local area, and basically there are feedback online as well saying what plants. Just look around the neighborhood, especially if you're moving into a new neighborhood. Like look at your neighbors, stalk them. Well, not exactly stalk them, stalk their front yard, but at least to figure out what they're growing. Because if it looks good, like 4 seasons over, it still looks good, it's probably will make it kind of. So that would be my limited experience to tell me what to get. So for my specific area, I'm in California, like I said, so it's pretty dry. I need something that is heat and drought tolerance in my area. And I would prefer something beyond just cactus or succulent family if possible. I mean, I love them, but not the whole garden with just them, because that would be a little bit odd. So I was looking for like a mix. And I figured out actually why one of the reasons why I get into roses was they're very resilient. So I guess here are some of the tips when you consider planting things in your garden, beyond looking at other people what their experience was. Here are some of the consideration points you want to look. For example, do you want something a unicorn? What's your level of experience or expertise? Are you looking for a unicorn, like especially for roses? Some of the roses are retired and hard to get compared to some more of the popular ones, which probably test the test of time of growing very well. So that's actually one of the questions you want to ask yourself: is it suitable for your environment? Because you probably want to save the unicorns for someone else that is having a climate better suited than your area, because you probably can baby it for a couple of years, and then 1 year the climate change and it cannot handle it. So that's one of the consideration before you even buy plants. Ask yourself, is this suitable for your area? And you can find a lot of information online to figure it out as well, like these days. For example, for roses specifically, you can go to Help Me Find Roses. You can type the name of the roses. You can know everything about the rose, from the growing habits to the breeder. The breeder is actually kind of important, because if you were having a breeder in your area, that probably means that rose is suitable for your area. So the breeder, as well as the feedback and the comments from other people, because for example, some of the roses, the color of the roses changes based on how hot or cold the climate is. They might do well in both, but it might not be the color palette that you were looking for when you're growing, when you're designing your garden. So that's also one of the things you need to consider. So what plants you want to put in your area. and if it's like sustainable in your area easily, or very difficult, and then you just basically need to ensure you baby it and no rest. So that would be one. And then based on that, then you can figure out where you can buy it. Sometimes you can buy it online, sometimes you can only find it in person. It also would dictate if what type of rose you can get, like if it's just available most of the time in band roses, or can you find it in Graft. And there's also your personal preference in that scenario, because like for my case, I'm in California, like I said. For some reason, on-root rose is doing much better than grafted rose, especially when it comes to Dr. Huey, because here in California, Dr. Huey takes over very easily over the actual plants. So I try to not to get grafted rose, I try to get on-root rose. And in that case, most of the time, I had no choice to resort to band roses. So that kind of limit my list of where I can get the plants from. And regardless, if you buy it from online or in person in your local nursery, there are also other factors you need to consider. So one is the distance, especially when you buy it online. Because what happened is, especially when it comes to if you were buying a band roses, those are basically salads. You buy salads, you wait it for it wilt in your car for 1 day, it's over. So think of band roses that way. You have it shipped from a very long distance, and God forbid the mailing service was delayed. It stayed in the dark house for a weekend, and it probably might not, it might or it might not make it, depending on how good the vendor is and how healthy the plant is when it was sent. And also consider the transplant shock if you're buying online as well. So you increase your risk a little bit when you're buying from far away places, especially when it comes to online. So I think that's one of the considerations you have to consider. The other one is the warranty. So the warranty kind of tells you how proud your nursery or your vendor that you purchase from with their plants. If they think they are very healthy, they only sell good plants, they're not worried about, have to pay back for something sent unhealthy, that means then you're safe. That they usually will offer a warranty in that case, and it kind of gives you a little protection, especially when it comes to online purchase. It also tells you how healthy the plants is as well. So in terms of healthy of the plants, not only the breed of the plants has to be healthy, the vendor that nurtured that plant probably has to pay some attention to make sure that it grow up healthy, right? Just like a human or a pet, it's like how much time you put in it, and that also coming to the reputation of the nursery, right? So if it's a reputable place, like a big organization or small ones, if their reputation, they usually have a good feedback online somewhere. You don't necessarily trust things 100% online, but it gives you kind of like a gauge. If people said it's something iffy about it, that kind of tells you how much risk you want to take with that specific vendor. Speaking from my own experience, I usually like waited a year or something before I purchase plants. Last year, because I have a medical issue with my case, I tried to buy plants before I have the extensive medical treatment. Actually, it's the year before, and I got fraud. In that case, basically, they usually when you buy roses, for example, or even sometimes maples, Japanese maples, you pay upfront. You waited for them to grow the baby plants, and then before they ship it to you. So usually there's a little like pre-sale wait. So you pay upfront and you wait and hope for the best. There are cases where people fraud in different levels. Worst case would be they never send you anything. They take your money and they run away. Or they take your money and making excuses. That would be the worst case. There's the middle scenario where they might send you a unhealthy plant and it's not covered in the warranty. Or they send you the wrong plant. It's like, whoops, sorry, too bad. Or if they are a good vendor, they might like say, oh, you can keep the incorrect plant and resend you a new one next year. So those are the different level of service you could get from a vendor. And I happen to have the worst case, which is the fraud case. For those cases, it depends on the vendor. Sometimes they just make excuses and and try to get your compassion from them to not file back and get money, using many reasons, like from medical to climate to family, whatever reasons that they can kind of make up in those scenarios. I understand like people should be compassionate and not try to mess people up. I also understand, but in this case of a fraud, you should do something to make your stance clear. From my perspective, I think you want to file a chargeback from your credit card, and it also makes it more important to use a good credit card that you are protected from bad vendors in those cases to kind of secure your money back. And there's usually a very limited filing back period for when you can get your money back from a pre-order, because usually like I pre-orders like 1 year ahead or more than half a year ahead, and then you don't know they didn't send it until like probably like 9 months out, right? You don't want to wait more than that beyond that 9 months out to file a claim, because otherwise your credit card company probably not recognize it. And I think it's important for you to get your money back. If you want to donate to their cause, sure, but you want to make it clear that you donate as a separate issue, then you get your money worth of what you spent. So if you want to know more about reputations of different vendors and multiple sources, there's like, for example, Rose Geeks. They always do some stuff, rose opening videos. So that would be one of the cases. But again, those nurseries might knew them because of the addresses and whatnot, and it might be a biased view of what they send over compared to other people. So when you look at those videos, you also like want to compare with other people feedback online or friends that you know of, and so on and so forth. And the good places will be Rose vendor feedback on Facebook, for example. That is a relatively new group. after the fraud scenario that I just kind of explained earlier. If you want to look at Catch Me If You Can kind of movie video, there's a whole chat, like whole series of chats about that that fraud case, because there's not just happened to one or two people, it happens to a lot of people in those cases. And if you want educational, there are multiple like books, local chapters, about roses. There's also like one of my favorites, the Fraser Valley Rose Farm video on YouTube. Those are great sources. Again, I'm not affiliated with any of them. I'm just kind of listing out what kind of places you can check against the vendor to see if they're a reputable source or not. And it also is a good kind of places to look for to see if that farm has problem in a specific year that you should watch out for it if you happen to have goods delivered that year. For example, rose gall, as some of you kind of know about it, like it don't just happen to that rose, it happened to the soil around it. It might spread to other plants if it was contaminated, cross-contaminated kind of. So it's good to know information, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so that's basically it for my today's video. If you want to go into more information about how you can get your money back if you, in case unluckily you get fraud, do check out that Rose Vendor Feedback Facebook group, or let me know and put it in the comments. I can do a video about how you can get your money back in those scenarios. It was kind of ironic because I'm not the only one that was on medical treatment while being fraud. It felt really particularly bad when you are in that shoe. And I was talking to another person who just like, I don't know that person, it's just a chat online. He's in the same boat. His wife is also sick, so he don't have time to even bother to put in the money back. I'm just the stubborn person that, I guess for me, right and wrong has a very, like, you know, like solid line. I just stubborn. I was like, before I die, I have to get my money back. At that point, before I was actually receiving the medical treatment, I was that stubborn. So you can imagine, like, that scenario was not great. Like, you're not just frauding people, you're frauding potentially a person that has a hope for getting something, you know, it's like the light of the tunnel for my case back then. So yeah, so long story short, be careful out there. There are online vendors that's doing some bad things out there, and you want to make sure you're choosing the correct place when you make a purchase. And that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Until next time, have a good one, guys. Bye!